Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and it is February 17th, 2021. Today, this video will be a continuation of what we were going over yesterday, which is the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the translations of each paragraph. So there's a lot to go through, so we're just going to jump right in. Actually, I want to say something first. I've had a case of hiccups all day, so if you hear me hiccuping throughout this video, please disregard or laugh at me, either one. But I've had these all day and I cannot get rid of them for the life of me. I tried all kind of stuff. I tried the old salt under the tongue trick. I tried holding my breath and counting back from 100. I tried saying my ABCs backwards. I tried forgetting about it. It just hasn't been working out to my advantage. But hopefully they will go away if they haven't already. So, let's jump in. We were talking yesterday about the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights and what that allots, and it's technically a constitution for the world, and each one of us is automatically by birth subject to this. Now, the people that own the UN, they are obviously the ones in control, but this is something that they use as a control mechanism. So, I guess we can just start right up here. Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind in the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as highest aspiration of the common people. Translation: the UN is granting the freedom of debt speech through them and the freedom to be in fear and lack. To go against the fear and lack means to be treated with disregard and contempt by UN bar attorneys with the removal of human rights by fictional title. That might be seen as barbarous and outrageous on human consciousness. Whereas it is essential, if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. Translation: should recourse to the UN's presumed obligations not be produced by human beings, tyranny and oppression is protected and authorized by UN's rule of law. Read legalized codes by bar attorneys across all nations on behalf of the UN. The United Nations is the city-state of legal, fictionalized law. Truth. Whereas it is essential to promote the development of friendly relations between nations. Translation: by the necessity of existence, nations shall be in the perpetual state of underdevelopment, subservient to the UN rule of legalized fictional law. Whereas the peoples of the United Nations have in the Charter reaffirmed their faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, and in the equal rights of men and women, have determined to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. Each nation is the person of persons. Each nation has reaffirmed that natural persons are to be legalized and are worth the birth certificate. And are worth the birth certificate in debt as a human chattel person franchise. Men and women shall be slaves under the UN's fictional code, with living standards reduced, social progress reverted. Whereas member states have pledged themselves to achieve, in cooperation with the United Nations, the promotion of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedom. Member states have made the debt pledge and are thus financially obligated to promote universal operation of the legal, fictional, corporate overlay called human rights as fundamental subservience to the straw man legal presence through corporate bankruptcy constructive trusts, also called civil rights. Human rights, civil rights. those are rights that are granted to you by the world government. Actual God-given rights are rights that you are born with. We're all born free. No rights have to be granted by any other man, but only through these systems and these organizations do they grant you rights, and whosoever can grant you rights can also take them away. Let's keep on. Whereas a common understanding of these rights and freedoms is the greatest importance for the full realization of this pledge. The UN is saying that it's common for humans to stand under being converted into a corporation for financial slavery obligations, and that it is of the greatest importance that humans be converted into legal presence corporations for the realization of the Babylonian debt slavery, pledging that each member nation has already reaffirmed many times. Now, therefore, the General Assembly proclaims this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations, to the end that every individual and every organ of society, keeping this declaration constantly in mind, shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms by progressive measures, national and international, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance both among the peoples of member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. Translation: the conversion of human beings into artificial persons is the common standard for all peoples and all nations. Each nation is a person unto themselves, containing sub-person franchises, like an organ in the body. The end is the conversion of everyone into an individual person, corporate insurance franchise, and then to treat each as an organ functioning on behalf of the UN Body General Assembly. The conversion of natural consciousness into individual person corporations is kept constantly in the collective consciousness. The UN infuses confusion into the conversion of human into bank accounts, so people are never aware of the facts. Steady and progressive measures are continually taken to force humans into being treated as legal presences, corporations, bank accounts, financial securities, birth certificates. The UN even makes a distinction between the artificial persons of member nations and the nationals on the land territories of the member nations. The UN is seeking to even legalize nationals. Article 1. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act toward one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Translation: look at this through a robot's eyes. Artificial persons are like robots. Digital persons need to be told what they are and what to do. Sounds reasonable. However, if you believe that you are born free and equal, then you are consenting to the UN's application of the legal presence corporate overlay here in Article 1. It's an unconscionable article in its abuse of the word human to mean chattel. And for the reason that we must treat each other in brotherhood, the UN lacks the requirement and is allowed to violate brotherhood, particularly in execution of recourse, without prejudice, and with extreme prejudice to their unlawful fictitious obligations. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation of sovereignty. Translation: the UN literally titles and claims our human body with birth certificates via usufruct. The slavery of UN birth bondage obligation is ubiquitous across all member nations. Slavery of humans conversed into legal presence corporations shall be done regardless of politics, jurisdiction, and international status. Even independent of the UN is enabling itself to interject into all trusts, no matter what. The only entities protected from the UN are non-dependent, non-trust, read Vatican, self-governing bodies and or entities with unlimited sovereignty. All human beings are of unlimited sovereignty. That's the meaning of unbound, unlimited human rights, with total respect in accord with the golden rule, natural law. Do not harm others, others being non-legal, as legal is entirely fictional and made up. Self-governing entities must be unincorporated and non-legal. The world government of world citizens is such an organization that is beyond the jurisdiction of the United Nations legal fictionalization personalization. And if legalization is performed, the legal entity is owned privately by the world citizen rather than by the UN body member nation. Article 3, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Translation. Oh, I'm receiving a call. Hold on. Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I don't even know who that was. Anyway, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Translation. This article encodes a person as being a financial security and thus insurance franchise. Furthermore, if we have a right to life, we also have a right to die at the hands of the UN and their bar attorney minions. Also, if the right to liberty exists, then so does the right to slavery. Upon choosing to exercise that right, the UN is operating in legal duality to declare slavery and war against humanity. Let me stop here for 1 second before I go to Article 4. If you are watching this video and you have not seen the part 1, which is at the end of the video that I did yesterday, please go back and watch the part 1 so you are not confused by all of this legal talk in here. Because coming into it, where we started, you're going to be like, whoa, what's this mean? What's that mean? I don't want anybody to be confused ever. Please go back and watch it because the beginning was very descriptive and very, very helpful. Moving on. Article 4. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. Translation. This article bans all other forms of slavery except the right to be a legal slave through the artificial person overlay bank account. People are given a choice for the freedom of unlimited sovereignty and or self-governed entities or else UN strawman slavery. No one shall be subjected to torture or cruel, inhuman, should say inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. Only the UN and its members are allowed to commit violence upon subjects. Jails and prisons all meet these conditions. 2/3 of the prisoners in the United States are non-violent and only committed violations of statutes. This article is permission by the governmental service corporations to treat us as subjects, be tortured and given cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment and punishment as happened in the Abu Ghraib military complex. Everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Common translation. This gives permission to bar attorneys to automatically convert natural humans into artificial persons via legal code under the power of assumption. This article of human chattel privileges is most atrocious. By law, rights are property. The property can be entitled. By titling, the issuer of the title is claiming to be the true owner of the property. Rights as the grantor, underwriter. Titles are issued on security paper because they are financial securities and thus debt, financially traded upon. All titles are negotiable instruments underwritten with debt as usufruct property insurance franchise. The topmost position of the UN isn't president nor prime minister. The title name was Secretary General. A general engages in war. The title also implies the heir of secrets. Article 7. All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. All are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration against any incitement to such discrimination. Translation. This article says that all natural humans are equal before their legalisms are applied. After the application of the legal presence overlay, not so much. Indeed, after the legal presence overlay, all protections are discriminated against and taken away by titling the right property into a privilege. To complain about such UN member state titling the private rights property without compensation is incitement and requires further discrimination and removal of rights for the financial obligations of peace issued for the UN, to the UN, by the UN, and only the UN. I covered this before, but allow me to tell you their definition of peace. Karl Marx said, he's not the only one, peace is absence of opposition to socialism. Peace is the absence of opposition to socialism. So every time I see them talking about peace, I'm thinking absence of opposition to them. Moving on. Article 8. Everyone has the right to an effective remedy by the competent national tribunals for acts violating the fundamental rights granted him by the Constitution or by law. This article abolishes all courts and establishes competent national tribunals across all member nations. This article is the reason why the Organic Constitution, the Incorporated Constitution, and even Statutory Code, UCC, is relegated to the dustbin of history. Courtrooms across the United States are competent national tribunals. All U.S. courtrooms serve the United Nations. Let that sink in. Even statutory courts are obsolete. Trying to fight a court via statutory UCC, sovereign man documentation is totally ineffective against the UN competent national tribunals. There is no constitution in the United States because it has been taken over by the UN. True. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. This encodes the arrest, detention, and exile of anyone that the competent national tribunal arbitrarily opines and deems subject of treatment/non-peace. No one else is allowed to commit these crimes except the UN. There is a lot of through the looking glass kind of legalese in the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Anyone pointing these unlawful legalisms is the subject of the UN, ripe for arbitrariness. Article 10. Everyone is entitled to full equality, to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal, in the determination of his rights and obligations and of any criminal charge against him. Translation. Everyone has their right to fair and public hearings, titled, thus legalized and removed for equality. The only way to treat all legal entities as equal is to legalize and equalize them all. The competent national tribunal used financial obligations to unjustly remove the right to an independent and impartial tribunal. The one judge deciding is the tribunal, and the only recourse is an appeal. When what we want is a jury trial isn't encoded as basic human right. There is no access to a jury of peers in the UN-rigged legal fictional system of injustice. It's a fact. Even the language, tribunal. Where do you usually hear a tribunal? Military. Secretary General? Military. The UN is literally at war with humanity. Through all these terms and all of their now legally binding, even if you go look up the United Nations on Wikipedia, if we have enough time, I'll pull it up. It says creditor United States, because the United States was the main creator of the United Nations back in after World War II. They have all these different terms. Many people don't understand. They're just like, oh, that's probably just something. No. This is what they have been using to guide nations and to rule over people. The U.S. Constitution has not been in effect since this has taken over. Moving on. Article 11. Everyone charged with a penal offense has the right to be presumed innocent until proved guilty according to law in a public trial at which he has had all the guarantees necessary for his defense. No one shall be held guilty of any penal offense on account of any act or omission which did not constitute a penal offense. under national or international law at the time when it was committed, nor shall a heavier penalty be imposed than the one that was applicable at the time the penal offense was committed. Translation: the public trial already presumes the person has committed an act, making them guilty, and may be treated as guilty until proven innocent. There are no guarantees that the actual facts can prove innocence, because one cannot prove a negative. So any fictional crime might be seen as guilty forever. Oops. Any act or failure, omission to act in accordance with all national and international law is reason to treat a person as guilty. Being human without legal presence is naturally a crime, and thus reason to treat all human beings as guilty until proven innocent for acting as humans. That's what we have in this country right now. Guilty until proven innocent. If you want proof of that, go get arrested for something, and you'll sit in jail until your court date. Unless you make bond, but they'll still see you as a criminal. Trust me. Or not even that. You don't even have to do all that. Cops are trained to see all of us as criminals at any given time. That's fact. Go ask any cop. I know cops. I've talked to them. One friend of mine, I won't name him, but he's a good man. He's actually a pretty decent cop. He even has, well, he's a chief. He even has laid down the law on some interdepartmental issues that were going on with other officers, things like that. But he even said during the training and during the courses and stuff you have to take to become a police officer in the academy, they drill it into your head that anybody is a potential criminal. And it's safety first to see people as criminals. Not to me, it's not. Article 12. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks upon his honor and reputation. Everyone has the right to protection of the law against such interference or attacks. Translation: only the UN has the right to arbitrarily interfere in privacy, family, home, and correspondence. Only the UN has the authority to attack a person's honor and reputation by putting them into dishonor. Only the UN has the authority to create dishonor, use UCC slavery code to authorize their member nations to equitably obligate its citizens into insurance franchisees, and then into dishonor likewise. Article 13. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and return to his country. Translation: the right to freedom of movement is great. However, residence is a term of artificial persons. A woman on the land is a dweller. Only legal presence from the sea of commerce take up residences on land temporarily. The right to leave any country encodes the right to be treated as a person, even when no longer in a legal fictional jurisdiction. The ability to leave one's own country and return may be interfered with by the UN via border control. Everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. This right may not be invoked in the case of prosecutions genuinely arising from non-political crimes or from acts contrary to the purpose and principles of the United Nations. The right to asylum exists for all crimes as non-legal person commits, no matter what. More reason to abide by the golden rule, as this shows natural law is all there is outside of legal fiction UN. We should all be living by natural law, guys. If you're this far in to this stuff, you should be living by God's law. You should be living by natural law. Some laws aren't even worth following. Some laws are just terrible. Terrible. For instance, don't drive drunk. Okay, I agree with that. Okay, well then I'll walk home. Nope, public intoxication can't. That's the kind of thing right there. You know how many people in my area get arrested for public intoxication? That's it. They weren't even committing any scene or nothing. They just public intoxication, bam. And they say get a DD. Okay, great, yeah. Designated driver. Cool. Problem with that is you get a designated driver, get pulled over by the cops, they smell alcohol, you're now a suspect. And now you're getting breathalyzed, and you're getting pulled out of the car, and your car's getting searched because you might have had a drink even though you didn't. Legality is not, has never been, and never will be morality. That's a fact. The right to asylum does not exist for anyone being persecuted by UN bar attorneys claiming to be non-person, claiming unlimited sovereignty and or self-governing. Everyone has the right to a nationality. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality, nor denied the right to change his nationality. Translation: the UN has the right to impose legal nationality upon everyone through the legal nationality is up to the person. So long as every person submits to the financial obligations of UN bar attorneys via legal fictionalized member nation, it's all good. World citizens throw this article into total confusion, which the paradox necessary to stop the UN bar attorneys. 16. Men and women of full age without any limitation due to race, nationality, or religion have the right to marry and to found family. They are entitled to equal rights as to marriage, during marriage, and at its dissolution. Marriage shall be entered into with the free and full consent of the intending spouses. Family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by society and the state. This legalizes the marriage contract as between persons and the UN. Marriages are business licenses authorized by the UN. Family is titled by the state into the UN. The right to a lawful family is fundamentally removed. All legal fictionalized children are raised by their parents at the sufferance of the state/UN. You ever wonder when people define marriage and they're like, oh, you got to get married. It's right by God. Do you know how God defines marriage? As the joining together of two souls into one. Man will leave his house and find his parents' house and find a wife. The state doesn't have to be involved. My wife and I have been together for 10 years. We never got a marriage license through the state. We never did all that. But we've been together and faithful to each other for 10 years. We are, under God, married. Just an opinion of mine, not even really an opinion, it's a fact. Do you think back during the times of Genesis and Exodus, you think that there was a state going around writing up marriage certificates and licenses for people and telling them that if you don't get married through the state, that you are going against God? Come on. So I see my wife and I as married, even though not through the state. 17. Everyone has the right to own property alone as well as in association with others. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. Translation: everyone shall be arbitrarily deprived of all private property and replaced with usufruct, personal property owned by the UN artificial person legal presence overlay. The right to own property by and as a legal presence is an association with the state and thus must be encoded here. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in a community with others in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. The right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religious precludes the idea that the UN legal presence overlay might be somehow bad. So we are free to have any thought or belief so long as it is in alignment with the legal slavery of governmental service corporations. Indeed, The FBI have said that they own all thoughts and memories, thus legalizing them for use as debt and rationale for more debt creation. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. Translation. This article encodes that all human speech is merely legally incompetent opinions. Anyone interfering with the speech of an opinion, such as in rebuttal, elevates the speech from opinion to record on file. Interrupting, even to make a correction, makes the other's speech somehow more legal, fictional, under this article. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. No one may be compelled to belong to an association. The right to association encodes the right for the UN to do what they are doing. It also encodes that everyone may be compelled into the UN by legal presence, association under the power of assumption. The only way to exercise the right to not be compelled is to explicitly rebuke all legal presumptions of the UN. Being a member of a self-governing non-UN state, such as the World Government of World Citizens, is one instance of rebuttal of legal presumption. 21. Everyone has the right to take... Make sure I'm still recording. Everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country directly or through freely chosen representatives. Everyone has the right of equal access to public service in his country. The will of the people shall be the basis of authority of government. This will shall be expressed in periodic and genuine elections, which shall be by universal and equal suffrage, and shall be held by secret vote or equivalent free voting procedures. This article specifies how to manage member governmental service corporations. Public service is accessible only to artificial persons. Only artificial persons may vote in elections. Representatives are artificial persons that represent the UN. The will of the people shall be the basis of authority. The management of the debts of society, humanity via the last will and testament, aka the bankruptcy of all governmental service corporations, is the basis of the UN legal fiction authority. Elections and voting shall be the cause of periodic and genuine suffering. The actual votes are filed secretly on behalf of the UN for the candidate the UN wants to win in the contract to operate the bankruptcy of the governmental service corporation. 22. Everyone as a member of society has the right to Social Security, entitled to realization through national effort and international cooperation, and in accordance with the organization resources of each state, of the economic, social, and cultural rights indispensable for his dignity and the free development of his personality. All work performed and produced by humanity is titled, owned by the UN and member nations without any compensation, for free, toward the development of national legal personality. All works are stolen and nothing is given in exchange. Not even debt money, nothing. This is why business in the U.S. can deduct expenses for taxes, but human beings cannot deduct living expenses for their legal, fictional taxes. You ever wonder about some of this stuff, guys? Everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment. Everyone without any discrimination has the right to equal pay for equal work. Everyone who works has the right to justify favorable remuneration, ensuring for himself and family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection. Everyone has the right to form and to join trade unions for the protection of his interests. Translation. Right to work is entitled and thus legalized for the profit of the UN and against the workers. In exchange for the theft of human work output, the UN offers protection against unemployment. You ever see them signs that say right to work is a lie? People get screwed every day by right to work. The UN expects to get paid equally for each legal presence they administer without discrimination. The UN has the right to impose itself and its obligation upon human dignity and, if necessary, by other acts of violence and usury, create a person insurance franchise trust out of each person and family in the pursuit of peace obligations, debt monies. The UN is protecting its right to form, be the trade union of all member nations to protect the interest of peace via slavery, corporate overlay, legal presence, debt obligations. Everyone has the right to rest and leisure, including reasonable limitation of working hours and periodic holidays with pay. This is to make sure that corporations don't go overboard with working legal presence slave to the bone. China and or India might be a good example where article could be important. You can't have the people dying from being overworked for the UN's financial obligations. Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health, well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or other lack of livelihood, in circumstances beyond his control. Motherhood and childhood are entitled to special care and assistance. All children, whether born in or out of wedlock, shall enjoy the same social protection. This encodes the lowest of standards of living as reasonable to use upon persons against humans. The UN and member nations have the right to create unlimited financial securities to pay for unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond the person's control. The titling of children is found in the creation of debt securities for the special care and assistance for mothers and children. This article encodes the kidnapping of children by the UN member nations under the guise of giving them legal presence, person, corporatehood via birth certificates. Birth certificates only list uppercase names these days. Everyone has the right to education. Education shall be free, at least in elementary and fundamental stages. Elementary education shall be compulsory. Technical and professional education shall be made generally available, and higher education shall be made accessible to all on the basis of merit. Education shall be directed to the full development of human personality and to the strengthening of respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. It shall promote understanding, tolerance, friendship among all nations, racial or religious groups, and shall further the activities of the United Nations for the maintenance of peace. Parents have prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. The development of human personality is actually that of a legal personality. The education system creates its own legal presence from each student. The University of Michigan Financial Office told me that before 2001, each student got a birth certificate-like document. The student legal presence shall stand under the UN, be underwritten with debt by the UN, be tolerated by the UN, and be treated as persons among all nations. The treatment of students as their own artificial person shall further the activities of the United Nations and peace application of legal artificial persons. Parents have the right to choose any education the UN offers them as an option. Only UN-approved education shall be given to children persons. What would happen if you took your kid out of school and actually homeschooled them, but homeschooling is not what it sounds like? Homeschooling now is you still have to register for your school district, and you have to get the school to send your child online work that they do at the school. So it's the same curriculum. You just do it at home. What would happen if you took your kid and said, I'm not putting my kid in school. My kid's going to be educated at home, like people were for ages? You would get arrested. And they would make you feel terrible because, oh, your child has to have an education so they can be smart. That's what they would say. So they would throw you in jail and they would take your child. If you don't believe me, try it. Try it. Everyone has the right freely to participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts, and to share in scientific advancement and its benefits. Everyone has the right to the protection of the moral and material interests resulting from any scientific, literary, or artistic production of which he is the author. Translation. Only artificial persons may have culture, life, and community. The financial benefits and slavery obligations of the UN are specified here as a part of cultural life. To gain protection of any scientific, literary, and artistic production, the work must be surrendered to the UN so it can be protected by the UN and its member nations, e.g., getting a getting a U.S. patent is surrendering the idea to the United States unconditionally. If the U.S. Patent Office wanted to, they could slap a national security secret on the patent, and even the author of the work has no recourse. 28. Everyone is entitled to social and international order in which the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration can be fully realized. Order is a very financial word. Ordering debt is the only way to obligate the perceived removal of rights and freedoms. Only by financial obligations and money orders can the conversion of humans into corporate slaves be fully realized. The future tense implies that the conversion will never be complete. Indeed, there are always newborn children to slap legal presences on and treat as bank accounts for attorneys. 29. Everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible. In the exercise of his rights, freedoms, everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law, solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others, and I mean the just requirements for morality, public order, and general welfare in a democratic society. These rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. That's not even a translation, guys. That's what they have in their document. These rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. So if you want to exercise your freedom against the UN, you can't do that. Nope, not allowed. You're not allowed to go against your world government system. Also, nowhere in here do you see that it says that people have the right to keep and bear arms for defense. Translation. People are obligated by their communities to fulfill the financial obligation, development of his personality. In exercising any human rights and freedoms, anyone and everyone is a subject of the United Nations, with prejudice and under the power of assumption via trust law. The UN creates financial securities to recognize privileges of others and for themselves. The creation of debt securities may only be in alignment with the purposes and principles of the United Nations. Only United Nations employees may creation recognizable and usable debt. 30. Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms set forth herein. Translation. Governmental corporations, associations, groups, and persons may only engage in the creation of debt and the enfranchising of humans into corporations. Destroying debt, particularly debt that represents rights and freedoms, is not allowed as per basic human right. Conclusion. The UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights encodes the total enslavement of humanity under the nation of nations. Not only was the document a device of terrorism, the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights encodes and was an act of war against humanity. The World Government of World Citizens is an unincorporated, non-legal government not party to the Hague Convention of 1961, abolishing the requirement of legalization for foreign public documents. The World Citizen ID and passport must be annexed prior to use in any given UN member nation, just like Indonesia. The WSA is the lawful body that operates the World Government of World Citizens. The WSA has legal body for legal recognition. However, any corporation seems to facilitate the embassy-like nature in assisting people becoming world citizens. P.S. Even Bernie Sanders knows what personhood and corporatehood is being defined by UN bar attorneys. He said Ben is a person, Jerry is a person, Ben and Jerry's is not a person. And that would be the end of this. But combine this with the last video at the top here. Look how much we went through. Look at all that. Look at all that. All that good information. Anyway, we have all of these legal terms in the world now. Stuff that they just pile it on so people are just more and more confused all the time. People really don't even know what's going on, actually. Like, people run around, they even say person. They're like, oh, look at this person. Look at that person. Don't even know what it really means. I hope this helped you guys as, like, understanding how it actually works. And the only part that I semi-agree with, but also kind of disagree with, is the part where this guy said that they already have their New World Order. Well, technically they already have their world government, but they don't have their New World Order because they still have to realize the Georgia Guidestones. And the Georgia Guidestones are terrifying. If you don't know what they are, look it up. I put them in a couple videos of mine. The first one says they got to maintain humanity under 500 million. So, what do you think that's all about? But they already got it all set up so that when they finally get their New World Order the way they want it, nobody will ever be able to rise up ever again, ever. It will not be possible. There's some other news that happened today. Rush Limbaugh, he passed away. He was 70. No matter what you believe about him, I personally did not like things that he talked about. I knew that he was controlled opposition from the beginning. He knew all about the agenda, but never spoke about it. So his professional life, I did not care for, nor his personal life, but it is sad when anybody passes away, and we should have a moment of silence for that, because we are godly people here. And that goes for anybody who passed away. So if you ever want me to shout out somebody that is close to you, or just in general that passed away, that could be something that we do here. You tell me who it is and who they were to you, or anybody in general, and I will have a brief moment of silence for them, and maybe we'll say a prayer for some of those people. I'm going to be going over some other things, like, later on. We still have to go back to this little guy. This would be the part that we left off on The Secret Destiny of America, written by Manly P. Hall. We're going to start getting back into this stuff as soon as I catch a break from the current events and other things that are a little more important right now. As always, if you have any ideas on videos that you want me to do, topics you want me to cover, please tell me, and I will cover them. If you want me to discuss anything, I got a docket of things that I'm gonna discuss for the next couple weeks, maybe the next 2 months or so. But if you want me to throw something in there, just let me know, and I will definitely put it in this video. I'm trying to get some more people to watch my videos. I've been telling people at work and people in my personal life to check them out. I really don't care about having a whole bunch of views and people watching my stuff, because that makes for a lot of people that come across it and just want to be trolls, when this is serious stuff. Very serious stuff. And I've just been telling people because I want to bring more people here now that we have an actual channel now. Seemed like just yesterday I only had 3 videos. I got 30 something up now, so yep, everything's going good. Tomorrow we'll pick it back up with current events and other stuff, and maybe I'll have a little surprise in there for you guys. But as for right now, we really gotta keep on these guys. we really gotta start speaking out, talking to our neighbors, educating people on what's going on, showing them the facts. Like, don't just go up to people and start popping off and saying all kind of stuff. You have to ease into it. And if there's that one person that you just can't wake, move on so you can warn others. That's something I learned over the years, because I would spend so much time trying to wake up one person when it did not bode well for me. So if it gets to a certain point and I realize that I can't wake that person, I just move on. Like, it's not my responsibility to sit here and spoon feed you all this information. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Always remember that. Always remember that. But guys, I think that's going to do it for this one. I don't know if I have anything else to really say. We went over the Declaration of Human Rights. That was the main part of this video. But the gun control stuff, actually. So they're setting it up right now to where they're starting to get a lot of people in these different gun control groups on, and they're starting to get them involved again. And we're going to, I firmly believe that we are going to see a major false flag soon. Not major as in like 9/11 style. Major as in like LA. What happened in LA in 2017. Something like that will happen. They'll blame, who knows? They'll blame, quote, one of them militia guys or patriot guys or one of these extremists. And just, of course, they always have to make us look bad to the people. Half the people think that people talking out about this stuff either are crazy or you're terrible, you don't care about others, whatever else. Like, if you don't wear a diaper on your face going into a store, people berate you and tell you don't care about others, you hate people, you're selfish. What I say to that is, I'm not selfish. I never forced anything on anybody. I'm not the one running around getting up in people's businesses telling them what to do. They are. They're the ones running around following you around the store. You got a mask? You got a mask? First of all, if these people knew anything about masks, they would understand that even the N95 masks, if this was a real airborne virus, then that would not work. You would have to have one of those real heavy-duty masks that they have. I forget the name of it. My buddy was telling me about it like 2 weeks ago. If I find it, I'll put it in the next video so you could see. But these little cloths that people are wearing on their face, even if you look at the package, it says, this does not protect against anything. People are still wearing it because it's like a pacifier, or it's like a security blanket now. Some people are so afraid to leave their home, they won't leave without a mask or gloves or whatever else. It's just crazy. And people that are disinfecting everything, hand sanitizer every 10 minutes, washing your hands every 5 minutes. You're destroying your immune system. Do you know that? You really are. And it actually goes with the idea of, because the idea of vaccines, not the shot, not that. The idea in general that if you expose your body to something, it will build immunity to it. That is true. If you go out in the world, you expose your body to the germs of the world or whatever. Even though germ theory, that's not even, Dr. Kaufman talked extensively on that. That's not even a real thing. But if you expose yourself to the world, your body will build immunity toward that. So what these people are doing is they're not exposing their body to anything. They're cleaning it all off every time they get something, so their immune system is weakening and weakening. And they wonder why they all get sick. And then people like me, I never get sick. I wash my hands pretty often, but not too often. Like if I'm at work, if I notice that my hands got a little bit of dirt on them, I ain't worried about that. Because one, I'm a man, and we don't care about dirt on our hands. Two, a little bit of dirt never hurt. And three, I expose myself to certain things, and to me, it's proven itself to be quite rewarding, as I have never been debilitatingly sick within the past, I'd say, 15 or so years. So, something that I'm doing is working. But if you're running around disinfecting everything, washing your hands, hand sanitizer, wearing a mask, you are literally not doing yourself a favor. But this is where we will stop, and as always, I would like to ask you to bow your head and pray the Lord's Prayer with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not unto temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen.